Hello guys, my name is Yulia Bowen, and in this video we're going to talk about what economics is all about, and we're going to talk about the first few principles of economics. So just a little information, the word economics actually have a Greek origin, and it means one who manages households. And in reality, households and economies have a lot in common. In most societies, the allocation of resources is done by not a single planner, but through an action of millions of households and firms. And therefore, economists study how people in society actually make decisions. Believe it or not, you as an individual, you're actually making economic decisions every day. You probably never thought about this before. You probably never thought about it before taking this course and listening to this video. But you as an individual, as a student, you're actually making economic decision every day. Every day you need to actually decide how much time do I need to allocate to study for my school. Every day you need to make a decision. How many hours do I need to work this week? How much money do I need to actually spend on the groceries? Families, they're actually making decisions, and the decisions they make are going to be economic decisions. They decide how much money do we need to save? Can we actually go out of town this week? Can we take a vacation this year? So all these decisions are going to be economic decisions. When decisions are made in our society, so decisions made are kind of only three different levels. Okay, the first level is going to be that decisions are actually made by households. The other is going to be decisions or economic decisions are actually made by firms, by the corporations. And the other level is going to be that economic decisions are made actually by the government. So when companies make decisions, they actually make economic decisions as well every day. When companies decide how many workers they actually need to hire, how much money they need to spend or to allocate to buy raw materials, how many overtime hours can we let our employees work, for example, this week? Do we need to open a headquarters office, for example, in New York or in North Carolina? So all these decisions that firms and companies make are going to be economic decisions. The same about our government. When government actually decide how much money do we need to allocate to education, that's going to be an economic decision. When the government decide, well, do we need to increase military budget, or do we need actually to decrease it? Do we need to have our schools open during the pandemic, or do we need to actually, close our schools? So that's going to be an economic decision. Do we need to lower or raise taxes for the individuals and corporations? So all this are going to be economic decisions. So when households, firms, and government make economic decisions, they actually make these decisions taking into consideration that our resources are limited. So therefore, if we're going to have this or to take this the definition of economics is going to be the study of how society manages its scarce resources. Or sometimes I actually like to say that economics is going to be a study of how society making decisions taking into consideration that our resources are limited. So guys, so now we're going to move on to a very first principle of economics, and it states that people facing trade-offs. You probably heard in the past such expression that there is no such thing as free lunch, and pretty much this expression is saying that people are facing trade-offs. All the time when we make a decision, we're going to have a trade-off. So for example, if you decided to spend Sunday hanging out with your friends, so that was an economic decision. What is going to be your trade-off? Your trade-off is going to be that you actually now have less money to study for your biology test, or probably instead of hanging out with your friends, you could have actually gone to work and work for a few hours and make some money. So that's your trade-off, that you actually gave up some kind of income. Another example of trade-off can be, for example, I don't know, let's suppose if you decided to go on a diet, okay? From one point of view, once again, when you go on a diet, you're actually going to be healthier, isn't it? But trade-off of that is going to be that healthy food actually costs more money, isn't it? So therefore, you're going to have less money to spend on other items. Also, the trade-off of going on the diet is going to be that now you cannot eat your favorite ice cream, or now you cannot eat your favorite candy bar. So from one point of view, you're going to be healthier, but then from another point of view, you're going to actually have some trade-offs. Guys, remember, these trade-offs are actually happening on the level, again, of households or individuals, on the level of corporations, and on the level of government. So if company decided to let employees to work overtime, extra hours overtime, what is going to be a trade-off? From one point of view, workers in that corporation will get more work done, but from the other point of view, now company is going to have less money in their bank account because they need to pay more in wages and salaries to their employees. Okay, so on the level of the government, so if what trade-offs the government is actually facing. For example, if government decided to allocate more money for education, remember, we're going to connect here all together, because government making an economic decision, okay, either allocate more or less money to education. Remember, they need to deal with scarcity because resources are limited. Government only collects a certain amount of money from taxpayers, okay? And what is going to be a trade-off? Well, if they spend more money on education, it means, okay, we can spend, or government can spend less money, for example, for infrastructure. One of the very important trade-off that economists at all the time discuss is actually a trade-off between efficiency and equality. So now I want everybody to pay attention to this slide and try to understand. So if we're talking about efficiency, we're talking about using the most of our limited resources. So when society gets the most of its limited resources, for example, if you're working 8 hours a day, you need to actually be very, very efficient and don't lose any time doing nothing during these 8 hours. If you have some kind of raw materials that you use in order to produce your final good, if you're going to be efficient, it means that you're going to use as much of that natural resource or raw material that you have with least amount of waste. If we're talking about equality, so the definition over here, it pretty much says this is when prosperity is distributed uniformly among the society members. And from economic point of view, of what we mean by equality is we're talking about income redistribution. So in order to make everybody equal, what are we going to do? We're going to redistribute income equally among the members of our society. What does it mean? So it means that those people who are working really hard and making a lot of money, okay, we're going to tax them at a higher tax rate, and we're going to take this money and pretty much redistribute to those people who are making less money. So once again, you as an individual and as a student have to decide for yourself. Do you think that equality actually is a fair thing in our society? And I know that people all the time disagree on this issue. Some people think that it's fair to redistribute income from wealthy to poor, and some people actually believe that it's not. But the bottom line of this is going to be that if we redistribute income from wealthy to poor, we actually give less incentives for people to work. For example, I'm going to make very, very extreme example. Let's suppose we're going to have a person, Mr. Jones, and he's actually working really hard and he's making $1 million a year. Okay, government is saying, here you go, you're making a lot of money, okay, you made a lot of money, so therefore we're going to tax you at a higher rate. Let's suppose we're going to take 50% of your income and you have to pay this in the form of taxes to the government. Okay, is it fair or not? Once again, you decide for yourself, but the bottom line, what is going to happen? Mr. Jones, if he knows that half of his income is actually taken away from him in the form of taxes, he is actually going to work less. Okay, because Mr. Jones is going to say, well, by working really hard and making this $1 million, I actually gave up time with my family. I actually missed going to my kids, for example, football game or volleyball game or basketball game. Okay, I actually spent 12 hours working, almost every day. I actually was working during the weekends as well. okay? And for all of these, government is going to take 50% of my income. No, thank you. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to work less, okay? When Mr. Jones make a decision actually to work less, what is going to happen with our society or in our society? Our economic pie is actually going to decrease. And what I mean here by economic pie is that our economy is going to shrink, because when you tax people at a higher rate, it's actually reduced incentive for people to work. And therefore, when we work less, it means we're going to hire less people. If we work less, we produce less goods and services in the economy. If we produce less and work less, we're actually going to pay less taxes to the government, isn't it? So therefore, once again, when you're going to impose higher tax rate on those who are working a lot and making a lot, what is going to happen? We're going to achieve this equality in our society, but what is going to actually be a trade-off? We actually going to lose efficiency. Okay, so therefore, once again, these are the issues, or this is the issue that economists discuss a lot. Okay, they argue about that, they disagree on this issue. So in order to achieve equality, okay, equality, once again, we're going to make everybody have the same income in the society. Okay, what are we going to lose? We're actually going to lose efficiency. Once again, guys, for yourself, you decide if it is fair or not, but this is the bottom line of this issue.